Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the SOMM TV podcast. My name is Jason Wise. This is going to be a weird sentence on a SOMM TV podcast about wine, but the NHL season has begun. Hockey has started. And guess what? You wouldn't believe how many crossovers there are with hockey and the NHL and drinking. On today's podcast, I have Phil Pritchard, who is known as the Keeper of the Cup. This is a guy who, when the Stanley Cup, which is the great trophy in the NHL, is carried around by members of teams after the championship, he has to go with it. He bears witness to everything drank and eaten out of this legendary 100-plus-year-old trophy. Guys, I've wanted to do this podcast forever. So on today's podcast, I have the Keeper of the Cup, the person who for decades has had to travel with the Stanley Cup with every championship team and everybody who takes it. And we are going to hear the story of what is drank and eaten out of the Stanley Cup today in honor of the NHL season starting. You do not want to miss this podcast. Today's pod is sponsored by SOMM TV. SOMM TV is the best food and wine video streaming service that exists in the world. I know, because I work 70 hours a day on it, and I can tell you that's the truth. Please go to sommtv.com to subscribe for over 500 hours of original content, tons of podcasts, all sorts of great stuff coming, including Sparkler Season 3. We adore you subs, and if you're not a subscriber, please go and get the best deal in the culinary world, sommtv.com. Without further ado, Phil Pritchard from the NHL Hockey Museum and the Keeper of the Stanley Cup. I can't wait. Phil, how are you?
I'm doing great. How's everything, Jason? You're well?
I am well. I wish it wasn't so early in the morning. I would definitely be drinking with you, but I think we're going to be able to get this nice and rowdy without that. So, Phil, I'll try to introduce you. So, you are the VP and curator of the Hockey Hall of Fame, but you are also unofficially known as the Keeper of the Cup.
Yeah.
And so, what we're going to talk about on today's podcast is the Stanley Cup, which is one of the greatest, probably the most iconic trophy in the world, I would say, let alone in sports. And there's a policy that players, when you win this, they get a certain amount of time with it. And so obviously the shenanigans that champions get into with this cup and the things they drink out of it, which is where I'm predominantly interested. What have people drank out of the Stanley Cup is going to start. So in honor of the hockey season revving back up and the fact that you probably only have a little bit of time because you'll be so busy, where do we start this podcast? I think a little bit of really quickly, let's talk about the Stanley Cup and let's talk about how the heck you became the person that's called the Keeper of the Cup and what that means. So the Stanley Cup, let's start there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's actually start off with where we're starting with today, beginning of the hockey season. So
sure.
There's 32 NHL teams competing to get into the playoffs, and then ultimately they want to hoist the Stanley Cup.
Right.
So as we're concluding the end of last season, and obviously 31 of those teams concluded a long time ago, but the Colorado Avalanche are still been celebrating, and they are officially the 2022 Stanley Cup champions, but on opening night, they become the defending Stanley Cup champions. So they're back at it again to win hockey's holy grail, the Stanley Cup. And I think the great thing, Jason, about the Stanley Cup is the aura and the tradition and everything around it. It's 130 years old now. It's, as you mentioned off the top, arguably one of the greatest sports trophies in all of sports history. It's 3 feet high. It's just under 38 pounds. But if it could talk, it would be a bestseller. And in saying that, it has been all over the place in those 130 years. We've been to 30 different countries. We've been all around the globe, obviously. We've never been below the equator yet, which probably is a whole nother podcast. But it's amazing where it goes. And in tying in the Colorado Avalanche, as we're just finishing their summer, when you win the Stanley Cup, you get 100 days with it. And the team celebrates with it through parties, through parades, through team photos. And then I think one of the greatest tradition in sport is every person on the team gets that chance to take the cup back to their hometown. And it's amazing when you look at a roster of the team. Hockey's no longer a North American sport. It's played worldwide. There's 96 countries in the world playing hockey. And the guys want that opportunity to take it home. And probably the best way to say it in a nutshell is the team is much more than those guys on the ice. Every one of those guys had parents that helped them. They might have had grandparents. Their coach pushed them. Their first teacher helped them. Their neighbors took them to practice. Their best friend's mom tied their skates for them when they couldn't. So the team is way bigger than that on the ice. And that's how this traveling roadshow, if you want to call it, for 100 days began, because we're thanking all of those people. The Colorado Avalanche know that it's not just them. They know family has part of it. And they are all part of that team, and they're all part of that celebration. So they get to enjoy all of that. How I fit in it, Jason, I guess, as you said, unofficially, I'm the keeper of the cup, and I've been doing it since 1988. And it's kind of unusual because growing up as a kid that played hockey, I wanted to win the Stanley Cup. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I want to carry the Stanley Cup. Like, nobody wants to do that. Everyone wants to win it. Everyone wants to pick it up over your head, and they want to drink out of it. And I was no different. And then here I am on my career path, and next thing I know, I'm carrying around the cup. So is part of that the dream? No, that wasn't. I didn't want to carry around. I wanted to hoist it, but I've never hoisted it because I've never won it.
Oh, come on. You trying to tell me that you haven't had a private moment where you walked into a bathroom and looked in a mirror with it in your hands and just held it up?
No, I've never picked it up over my head ever. And I want to, but I know I didn't deserve that.
Oh, this is so good. I have so many questions for you. This is so good.
And I think that's part of the cool thing that is so special about it, is because these players have worked their lifetime towards it. And there's arguably, some rookies win it in their first year, but some guys have played 20 years and they finally get that chance to lift it up. When you see them hoist it, then you understand why they get to and I don't. And people that haven't done it, they don't get to pick it up. And I think that's whole part of what the cup is and what it is. And I try and tell the story along the way, but I'm just part of the story. The cup is the story. I'm kind of in the background looking after it. And yeah, we get to go to all those parties and team photos and parades and everything like that. But the cup's the rock star. I'm the roadie, if you want to call it that, Jason.
So you're the roadie. Everybody on the team gets to take this for 24 hours or whatever it is. Do you go with the cup at all times?
Yeah.
Are you with it?
So it's not always me. There are a couple other guys that do it, but somebody is always with the Stanley Cup no matter where it goes.
Are there rules like, we're going to jump right into this, but are there rules like you're not allowed to take it to a strip club or you're not allowed to take it like underwater scuba diving? Are there any like hard and fast rules that you know what? You can't do? Probably
between us, we could probably come up with a whole bunch of things that are negative towards it. But the thing we always do with the players and the team, if they're respectful of it and it's a respectful event they want to do, and it's part of who they are and why, then it's okay to do. But we've never had a guy that says, I want to go underwater scuba diving. Like, there's never been that, but there have been guys that say, I want to take it fishing, or my dad's a lobster fisherman off the coast of Prince Edward Island. Can we go out the boat with him on that? And that means so much to that guy. So they're not going to disrespect it because they go back to, they've earned it very well. So the things they want to do are very respectful, but then flip the coin to their buddies. And as we all have buddies, we all know that, Jason.
Oh yeah. I've been that buddy occasionally.
Exactly. I think, so. and their day, and it's so special for their buddies too, because they're a big part of this and they're a big part of the trail, but they have different ideas. They want to do this. Let's get on social media for this thing. And that's the stories. And I
bet social media changed this quite a bit with what you're allowed to do. Cause now, oh boy, everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got a camera. Oh, I just like this. I'll have to keep this pod reined in because for me, this is like this is sort of the holy grail. If you think of the Vince Lombardi trophy, you think about like any of the great, the great trophies that exist in, the green jacket or something.
Yeah.
But like in golf, you don't, in a lot of cases, why? I'm going to ask you a question that I think is pointless. Why the hell would you let people take one of the most valuable trophies. We'll get into what people drink out of it and all the parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But why would you let this happen? I mean, this thing's got to be priceless.
Yeah.
Why would you let it go?
I mean, you were starting on the path there with the green jacket. Those guys win the green jacket, but they can't take it from Augusta ever. It stays there because it's that prestigious. But we've made the Cup, and not to take anything away from golf, but golf is a very individualized sport. I mean, they have their caddies, they have their teachers and all that. But hockey is all about team, and that team is much bigger than the ice. So to get the opportunity to go back to Brooklyn, New York with it, where you're born or wherever it might be, and thank your first coach, or go to a cemetery of a past one and sit there for 2 minutes, it's unbelievable. And probably the best word I would associate with the Stanley Cup is powerful, because the emotions it brings out are pretty amazing.
So I think the interesting thing with the Stanley Cup is it's not like if you think of like the Larry O'Brien championship trophy for the NBA.
Yeah.
What are you going to do if I let you take that? What are you going to do with it? Play baseball with it? Or I don't, because its shape is like it's a giant. I'll try to be polite here. Microphone or something, I guess. But with the Stanley Cup, it has a function. I mean, you can put stuff in it. You could put a baby in it. You could fill it with. All right. Taking it to what do people do and what do people drink out of it? We'll go here. I've heard some legendary stories of the Mario Lemieux pool party is a scary one to talk about.
Yeah.
What are the like guidelines that you say people should do? Do they drink wine out of it? Do they drink beer out of it? Do they drink, are they eating out of it?
Well, let's bring it back to what it is first. Obviously, it's a Stanley Cup.
Let's do that.
It's an inanimate object. It's probably one of the most recognizable inanimate objects in sport. But in saying all that, they celebrate it in all different ways and all different cultures in that. Obviously, the NHL is not just a North American sport. They have players come from all over the world, and it represents every roster is like that. The league opens this year overseas, and Nashville and San Jose are over there going to start off the season. And then November, defending Stanley Cup champions, Colorado goes over there with Columbus. So the game is much more than just North America now. And the reason why I tie that in is because when you go to Russia, you're not drinking beer out of the Stanley Cup. You're drinking vodka out of the Stanley Cup.
Oh, my God.
When you're in Northern Canada, you're drinking beer out of the Stanley Cup. When you're in France, let's say, you're probably drinking champagne or wine. Or if you're on the East Coast in Maine, you're probably having a lobster in the cup, because that is so important to that person who's from that area. So when we arrive at the guy's day, and we've talked to them ahead of time, and we know what we're basically going to do. But when he says, can we go to this place and I want to put this in the cup? And then he explains, or she explains, why it's happening. And, it's Frosty's ice cream, which he used to go to after every practice. His billets would take him there or something. And that ice cream place was very important to them. So they had ice cream all the time. So when he wins the cup, naturally he's going back to Frosty's ice cream, and he's filling up with ice cream and sharing it with those people that are important. On the outside, when you hear he's having ice cream out of the Stanley Cup, well, why would he do that? But then when you hear the whole story, I think that's what really makes it great. And it's all of those stories, regardless of whether we're in Slovakia, Switzerland, France, Canada, US, wherever it might be. Those are what make it really cool. But as we talked about earlier, the social media side, all you see is someone eating ice cream, but then you hear the whole backstory, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And so before we get into like what goes in it and all that, as the keeper of the cup, are you also the cleaner of the cup? Do you have to carry like your solvents and your towels and stuff and clean spaghetti and meatballs out? Does that happen?
You know what you said off the top, I'm vice president and curator. The real meaning for curator is a guy that cleans up artifacts, including the trophies. So we do that. But you know what's funny? And I'm going to give you an example. The Pittsburgh Penguins, they won the cup a few years ago. There's a whole legend of the cup going in Mario Lemieux's pool. And it did. Mm-hmm. I was there. It was 1991. 1992, they win again. It goes in Mario Lemieux's pool again. I'm there again. What's
the scene? What's the scene, though? Like, it just goes, they throw it in the scene, or everybody's in the pool?
Well, no, there's not everybody, but there was a lot of guys in the pool. And it was a team event. So fast forward 17 years. So now we're in 2009. The Penguins win the cup again. Mario Lemieux is no longer the captain. He's now the owner. The party is still at his house. It's the same house. And we're at the party, and Mario Lemieux and Sid and Crosby and everybody are there. And I remember Mario coming up to me and he says, Phil, the cup has to go in my pool, right? And I said, Mario, why would you want to do that? And he says, because we're superstitious. It happened before and we won the cup again. So we did it again. We won the cup twice, and now we've won it three. He goes, what if it doesn't go in the pool and we never win the cup again? And I said, Mario, you're one of the greatest players ever. You got the greatest player currently playing. You won the cup. Don't you think skill had something? Yeah, but superstition's huge, you know. So 2009, it goes in the pool. 2016, it went in the pool. 2017, Mario's house is under construction. They can't have the party at Mario's house. And, you know, for some people, that's wow. But it's huge. This superstition is now changing. They have the party at Sidney Crosby's house, which is just down the road from Mario's. But fortunately, he had a pool, so they had to put it in. But Sid put it in, took it right out, dried it, cleaned it himself. So tying back into that cleaning story, Sidney cleans it himself because he understands, and they all get it. But they're very focused on that superstitious type of thing. And it's one of those stories that kind of it gets better over time.
Sure, of course.
And that's how it happens. Like it's amazing. But the tradition and the aura of it is all there. And I know I talked right off the top. If it could talk, Jason, it would be the best seller in the world because the cup could have so many stories. You get to listen to me babble on though.
Oh no, I love this is great. Do the guys and gals on the team, do they look at you as like are you sort of like are they bummed that you're there? Like you're going to stop them from doing something? Are you just sort of over in the corner, or are you actually partying with them? Are you having a Molson Triple X with them up in Canada or whatever you guys are drinking?
Boy, you're really going to put me on the spot here.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot, Phil. You seem like a fun guy. I want to drink with you in Mario Lemieux's pool.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we got to wait till the Penguins win it again because it's superstition. That's the only way.
As a Clevelander, it's really hard to go celebrate in Pittsburgh, but we don't have a hockey team, so I'll do it.
Okay, fair enough. You know what? I think I guess over time, I mean, I've been doing this going into 35 years now. So I guess they know that someone's always with the cup. I guess it's pretty cool to have the guy that's been there longest with them on that day. And of course, when you're there, they want to have a toast with you. They want to hear stories as well. So there's always more than one toast and one drink and stuff like that. So back to your Molson Triple X. Sure, I've had Molson Triple X with the guys. I've had vodka with the guys. I've had shots with the guys. I've had champagne. I guess we're like an official partier with the Stanley Cup. Maybe that's another title. I don't know. I don't know what you'd call it.
That's a lot more fun than keeper of the cup. You sound like somebody's like chaperone, if you're the keeper of the cup. Whereas you don't strike me as someone who's whoever comes after you, probably going to be a real tight wad compared to you. I'm guessing.
But you know what? I mean, hey, we know hockey is a business, but it's also a passion. I think I have the passion for the game. I certainly have the passion for the history of the game. I respect everything about it. And I don't think there's a better sport in the world that has preserved its history like hockey does. The trophy, the naming of it, the engraving of it, all of that represents what the Stanley Cup is. And it's the reason why these guys play and ultimately go on to the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup and then bring it home to say thank you. And that's what it's all about.
Well said. Well, let's get into some crazy stories. What have people drank out of it that you've seen? And like specifically, if I mean, I love the stories of like, I'm drinking this beer because this is what I drank when.
Yeah. And for, by all means, and that has always happened in that. So we start off in the dressing room, usually the night they win the cup, there's champagne and beer guaranteed
in the cup. It's
in
just
the cup.
Automatically
right away in the dressing room. When you go to the guys' houses, depending on where it is, there's different drinks. I know this past summer, we were in Pilsen, Czech Republic, which is the home of Pilsner beer. Mm-hmm. And Pavel Francouz is one of the goalies for Colorado. So we went back there. they were drinking this green, they called it a green liqueur vodka thing out of it. And you look into the cup at a certain time and it was full of this green liquid. You want to say it's like a Kool-Aid type of thing or a Freshie type of thing, but it was alcohol. So Pavel walked around with a straw, gave everyone a straw, and everyone took a sip out of the cup all at once. So there's all these straws in the cup drinking this traditional Czech drink. I tried. I didn't try it from the cup. I tried it as a drink. It was okay. Not that I'm the preeminent shot guy or vodka guy or liqueur guy, but it was okay. But then flash forward, we go to Germany for Nico Sturm, and
was it Bekarovka they were drinking? Do you know?
It might have been. It might have been that.
Bekarovka's this Czech. I have an awful story with Bekarovka where I, let's just say, got very sick off of it. I have a Czech, a woman I bartended with for many years who is Czech. And Bekarovka, it comes in like a green bottle. It's got this green tint to it.
Yeah, that's like probably
really
what it is.
Really herbal.
Exactly. They told me it was good for me. I guess that's herbal.
Yeah, well, that's what all of Europe says. Whatever it is good for you. It used to be medicine, and you're like, yeah, well, I feel like shit right now. But all right, anyway, sorry. Keep going.
You are right there. Yeah, that's probably it. Because
I've had God, my Bekarovka story is terrible. Okay. It's not as good as a Stanley Cup Bekarovka.
Well, hey, you should have came. You could have drank it out of with a straw. Might have been unique.
And I'd have had a rough morning. But all right.
So, well, we're going to get back to the rough morning in a minute. But so the following day, we go to Germany, to Augsburg, Germany, for Nico Sturm. He's a German outside of Munich. Beer is the choice of drink in Germany. So they're drinking beer out of it. And then we go onwards in that. So back to your story, the morning after, well, those guys always have a morning after. My morning after is getting on another plane or renting a car and going to the next party. So my morning afters are usually pretty good. I'm not hungover or anything because that.
Phil, is half the NHL's budget spent on flying you around the world with the Stanley Cup to drink? Is this a line item?
Funny thing is, they win the Stanley Cup, and think of the parade they have. They have all the T-shirts out there. They probably sell more T-shirts in a day than our budget for traveling around the cup. But each team is responsible for that budget. And however so this summer, we're talking about Europe. This summer we flew, we took trains, we rented vehicles to get to the 5 countries we had to go to and go from there. But I think it all has to do with the culture to get back to what has been drinking out of it. And I think that's what really makes it really cool.
Oh, so great. So you're in Germany. We're talking morning after.
Yeah. And we're drinking dark beer, obviously, because you're in Germany. So you're not just drinking blonde ale or amber. It's the dark German beer and drinking from there. From there, we go on to Sweden, which Swedes, they drink beer, but they drink a lot of liqueur as well. So they're drinking liqueur out of it or something like that. And there, then we went to Finland. Finland, we have 3 guys in Finland, and we're going to a sauna party. So you try going to a sauna party. The cup can only.
This is amazing. A sauna party with an NHL team and
the Stanley Cup. But now you got to think, okay, Jason. So we're in the sauna. It's what is it? 190 Fahrenheit in the sauna.
So you're just sitting in there with a towel, just you and a bunch of guys.
Yeah,
in towels
drinking.
Okay.
But the cup can only stay in for about 3 minutes because it is so hot in there, and the cup is silver, and silver is a soft metal. It can't stay in longer, otherwise it'll. So we get the photos. They get a quick drink out of it. Then the cup goes out, sits outside the sauna. The sauna party keeps going for a while, and then everyone runs into the ocean and cools off, and then continues their day like that. So every culture sounds unique and different, but man, they are so fun. And I think that's what's great about it is they're fun. And, you come to America or you come to Canada and you go across the country, the foods change, the drinks change and everything. And you wonder, why is this guy doing this? Or why are we having clam chowder out of this? And then you hear the story and it's pretty special.
Yeah. Let's talk food for a sec. What have you seen eaten out of the cup?
Caviar, pierogies, soup. I can remember. Here's a good one. We were in Thomas Kopecky won the cup with Detroit back in 2008. He's from Trenčín, Slovakia. His family owns a family business, hotel, restaurant. He's very proud that his mom has this traditional Slovakian soup. So he wants to eat it out of the cup. So he's explaining this, this is a soup and my mom's made it. That's what I'd like to do. Yeah, no problem. Thomas, go for it. He goes, you guys try it? I said, I'll try it, but I'm not going to drink it out of the cup because you won and that's your thing. I'll have a bowl. So he explains it all in Slovakian. We're eating the soup. It's really good soup. So what is it? What's it translate to in English? And he goes, well, it's the inside of the stomach of a cow. It's that stuff. Oh, okay.
Tripe.
Yeah, basically tripe. Yeah, but it's from a cow instead of a sheep or something like that. So, but I think that's what's so special about it is the guys are so passionate about what it means to them and how special it is, and you see that in their look, and when they're asking us, if it's okay if I have this banana split out of it, or Jello, or whatever you might be having out of it, and I think that's what's great.
How there is not a feature-length documentary following you through Europe, North America, and wherever else with this cup. I just imagine at the end of a sauna party, you're getting in a car and you're just like, out comes this guy with the cup, puts it in the trunk, drives to the next thing. It's just like, I don't know what I'm imagining is actuality or not, but
I can tell you right now, you don't want to see me coming out of a sauna with a towel on. Like there's no documentary ever that's going to show that.
To all the listeners, I'm looking at Phil right now and you do want to see this. All right. How do you wrangle the social media aspect where it just looks like, hey, somebody, fed cow food to a cow out of this? What did I see recently? I saw that the mascot at the University of Colorado, like the buffalo, is it right?
The buffalo stuck his head inside.
Were they feeding it out of there?
Well, no. So here's the funny part. So we went to the game, and unbelievable fans there. And of course, the mascot is true blue buffalo. But we had been to a party earlier in that day, and champagne had been in it. So obviously the buffalo must have smelt that or something. I don't know, but he wanted to be part of that. He wanted to lick whatever remnants he could get out of the cup. And it would be like we set that shot up, like he stuck his head in and posed, but that was him. He stuck his head out because he smelt something in the cup and wanted to smell it. And he stuck, like, we didn't make that happen. That just naturally happened on its own.
You just have to be lucky enough to be in a room with a buffalo fur.
That's what happens, right? I just happened to be walking by and a buffalo was right in the office beside me.
If you were to take a guess, I know that you're in Canada, so I don't know if I should use gallons or pints or liters.
That's okay.
Or what.
We're good.
But how much champagne would you say, in a volume standpoint, has been drank out of that cup since the 100 plus years that it's been going?
Okay, well let's look at it this way. It holds just over 200 ounces of liquid, the Stanley Cup, right?
200 ounces. Okay.
So if you figure,
and do they fill it to the top, or is it just like one bottle in there?
So they do one bottle, and then they'll go, we need more. So they'll do two. They'll fill it right up. Then they realize they can't pick it up because it's too heavy. So
yeah, right. Because water's what, 8 point some pounds per gallon.
Yeah, exactly.
And so champagne might be a little lighter, but still, that was pretty heavy.
Hey, I'm going to steal that line from you because I can't tell them you're never going to be able to pick this up. Oh, it doesn't weigh anything. And now that I know it's 8.2 pounds per gallon, there we go.
4 or something. Yeah.
So they can't pick it up then. So now they're using a straw, like I was telling you earlier with the in Czech Republic, until you can get it down to a reasonable size so they can now pour it, because that's the fun thing to do. But so back to our mathematics here. So 200 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
We have 100 days of parties. There's at least every one of those is 3 parties a day.
Oh, God.
So let's do the math that way.
I mean, you guys don't know this, but Phil's actually 24. He looks terrible for his age. This lifestyle is not conducive. How you 3 parties a day, 100 days? I don't know if I've even read about 300 parties. So since I've had kids, it's unbelievable.
But I think what's so special is because the player takes it to his coach's house, and there's a party there.
Sure.
And then he takes his minor hockey buddies, and there's a party there. And then the town has a party for him, so there's another party. And then he has his party at night. So it's I guess maybe another unwritten title for us is an official partier of the summer. I don't know.
No, there's no question. I mean, just the amount of sauna parties that you must attend to.
So we've gone through some different foods, and I remember years ago, steak's been eaten out of it. Tampa Bay Lightning, when they won the cup, their first time.
Let's do that. So Burn Steakhouse. I know that they went to Burn Steakhouse, which Burn Steakhouse, for you listeners that are unaware, I've mentioned in the pod, and it is a legendary spot in Tampa Bay. I would say it's probably one of the most famous wine lists, if not the world, definitely the United States. They have everything. Tons of so much old wine. They have a warehouse full of stuff that they find stuff they forgot they had more often than most places have good wine. And so Burn Steakhouse, Tampa Bay, which would be, you talk about a place that you can have a bad morning the next morning if you go in with the right attitude.
So
they win and they go there.
Yeah, so they win. So let's go back to the first time they win, back in the early 2000s. Tampa Bay wins. They've got Brad Richards, Marty St. Louis, who's now the head coach in Montreal, Vinny Lecavalier, and so on. They have a team party at Burns Steakhouse. It was the first time I had ever been to Burns, and I had heard about it like you. I mean, it's legendary. So steaks in the cup, beers in the cup, champagnes in the cup. I think they did a Caesar salad in the cup. They made a Caesar salad in the cup.
This is a full course.
A
whole full course meal.
Yeah,
okay.
But the wine cellar that we were talking about, I mean, not that I'm the biggest wine cellar tour guy in the world, but I've been through a lot of them, and Mario Lemieux has an unbelievable one. Burns is spectacular. Like it's an underground. I don't know what you call it. Like, I mean, they have wine tasting down there. They have rooms that you can just sit and listen to music and sip on wine, and then you do the rows and rows of wine. But so that's back in the early 2000s. So now in the last 3 years, they've won the cup twice. So I've been to Burns, I think more than some of the employees at Burns have been to Burns now. Like we've been so many times, and it never fails to fail. And
Never fails to fail.
Yeah.
Do you remember any iconic bottles that were opened up and poured into the cup there at all? Because that place you could say anything and I'd believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I remember we drank Camus out of it. Is Camus right? Is that right?
Yeah, Camus is a Napa wine. Yeah.
Yeah, Camus. They also have another, I guess it's a Camus, which is a Bonanza, which they've drank out of as well, which is also from the Camus family. But funny thing, we had when we did it one time, they made French onion soup out of it. And
in the cup.
Yeah, so they had obviously the onion part, but then they added the cheese and melted it in there. But I remember when we finished then, and all the guys, I want to clean it up. I mean, there was an argument, who's going to clean the cup? Because all the cheese has been stuck to the side and everything as well. So it's a lot of fun. And again, I hope I don't use the word, if it could only talk, it would be a bestseller too much, but it would be, because
I'm sure there's all sorts of inappropriate stuff people have tried to do with the cup as well. I mean, I can only imagine what, as you call, like, everybody has buddies. I can only imagine what my friends back from high school and college would do if we had the opportunity to play with this thing for 24 hours.
But you know what? It's funny about it, Jason, is their buddies obviously are a huge part of their life, and they're their true friends. They're not there for the celebrity part of it, nothing else other than
right.
They've been there since the beginning. They're their true friends. They know all the inside jokes and that. But the guy has all these obligations during the day, and he wants to take it to his first rink and thank everybody there, and he wants to go to grandma's old age home or whatever. Meantime, all his buddies are sitting at his house drinking all his beers. So when we come back at 6:00, they're well on their way, and they've got lists. Oh, we got to do this with it. We got to do this with it. And
right.
that's when you hear all these stories, and you try to explain to the guys that, he won the cup. You didn't. Yeah, but we're part of him. We won it too. Like it. And that's what's so cool about it, I think. And I think all the buddies are so involved and so passionate about it. But most of all, they're thrilled for the guy, and they want to be part of it.
Ugh, I just cannot get enough of this. I cannot. Well, do you when you watch the playoffs and you watch where the season is starting to take shape and you're like, all right, look, this team could win. Do you ever have a little tinge where you're like, I hope they win so that I get to go to this country and drink this thing or eat this thing? Has that ever crossed your mind now that you've done this? You know, Tampa's great and Burns is fine. But man, it'd be a lot more fun to be in Paris, right? Do you ever start rooting so that you're like, hey, the captain of the team, hey, they're from Tuscany, so it'd be nice to.
I think what's great about the rosters now is what we talked about earlier. They're no longer just Northern U.S. or Canada or something like that. Guys are from all over the place. They play in their home cities or their home countries. They want to play in the best league in the world, which is arguably the National Hockey League. They want their team to go to the playoffs. They want to win the Stanley Cup, but then they want to bring it home. So when you look at a roster, you're going to go to some unique places that you might not ever been to. Like, I mean, I can tell you growing up, I don't know if I ever thought I would go to Arkhangelsk, Siberia for Pavel Datsyuk, but we went, and it was unbelievable. And
I bet you had some good caviar out there. They do caviar in that area. Quite a bit.
They do
of it.
Caviar big.
Oh, that's great. Well, so you've never. I find it hard to believe you've never just quietly in the mirror hoisted this cup up and just
never done it.
Like imaginary. But that's fine.
Never done it. But here I can share with you one. The first time we went to Russia in 1997, it was a pretty amazing event.
I bet all the just political things.
Yeah, everything. We were in Moscow. I remember landing in Moscow, and the Red Wings had won the cup that year. They had 5 Russians on the team, and there's all these huge celebrations in Red Square and these giant parties and that. And we're at one. I think we were there 5 days because there was 5 Russians on the team, and I think it was night 2. I think Igor Larionov was hosting. And they all started drinking vodka out of it. And Igor comes up to me and goes, Phil, we want you to have a drink of vodka out of the cup. And I said, Igor, there's no chance. What do you mean there's no? I said, you won it. You brought it home to your friends and family. I didn't win it. I really think that's important. He goes, do you know what's important for us right now? Is you brought the Stanley Cup to Russia. He says, because without you, it might not have got here. And I said, well, I don't know about that, Igor. But he says, this is history being made in hockey, and you're a part of it. Whether you like it or not, Phil, you're part of it. You brought it here, so we want to drink with it. And he goes, besides, if you don't, you're never going home again. So I had a sip of vodka out of the Stanley Cup.
There you go. Well, that's for somebody who's carried it around for so long, I would say you at least deserve that.
Well, you know what? I mean, it was cool, and it's one thing it's the only time I've ever drank out of it. It was with Igor Larionov, Slava Fedosov, Sergei Fedorov. I mean, they had a great list legends. Of players. Yeah, legends, Hockey Hall of Famers. But to stand there with Igor and Slava and have a drink out of the Stanley Cup, it's one of the highlights in my career of traveling with the Stanley Cup. It was pretty special, but it was very honorable for them, and that was pretty unique.
All right, let's take it back just to wrap this up. You're a kid, you want to win the Stanley Cup, you want to hoist it up. Now you're an adult. Yep. Let's pretend you fulfilled that goal as a kid. What are you going to eat and drink out of this thing? We're asking you for a good pairing too. What's your food? What's your drink?
All right. Well,
and where are you from, by the way? Where are you originally from?
I mean, my family's British, but I'm from Burlington, Ontario in Canada. So I'd obviously be bringing it home.
Poutine and Molson Triple X.
Yeah. No, there would be no poutine.
Okay, no poutine there. Okay, wrong side of the country.
Yeah. Well, I was just in that side of the country, and I did have poutine, but that's another podcast. And it was good.
You're right.
My wife's family has owned a fish and chip shop for over 50 years right near our house. So we'd be going there for sure. We'd be having fish and chips out of it. My family descent is English, so it's right up there, that alley there. I think I would probably share it with my buddies that I went to high school with, that a lot of them I'm still friends with now. Probably someone in someone's backyard with a fire pit in the backyard handing around cinnamon whiskey, as we always do every time we sit around in our backyard with the fire going. A bottle of cinnamon whiskey always goes around, so that would be part of it as well. And I'm a big beer guy of unique beers in that, so I would hopefully try a bunch of different ones out of it in that. But as we all know, this is just a pipe dream because my face got in the way of the puck too many times, Jason. So I gave up hockey and turned to the administrative side of things. But I love sitting there with the guys on their night and they're talking about what they're doing, and I watch them drink out of the cup. That's pretty special for me, and I love that stuff.
Well, this is the pairing I never thought I would love: cinnamon whiskey and fish and chips. And I'll tell you right now, that is what I want right now for lunch. You've just completely rerouted my day.
Fair enough. But you know what? I mean, here we are talking about drinks and alcohol. Being the curator, and I'm going to put my curatorial hat on at the Hockey Hall of Fame. We have a great collection of artifacts, obviously NHL jerseys and, World Championships, Olympic stuff and that. But we have a great collection of hockey beer cans, hockey wine bottles that are dedicated to wine, or they're made by players that got into wineries and that. Mm-hmm. And our display on it is unbelievable. So I guess in the world of the story, it doesn't matter what you do. Alcohol seems to be involved with it somehow in hockey.
Yeah, I think it's hockey can't claim that for their own, but you guys certainly make some of the best use of it I've seen. So,
well, cheers on that,
Phil. It is a true pleasure to have you on. Honestly, we need to do this every year, but next year, what we need to do is actually have you at least just take notes or talk through. Like, now I'm here, and follow your journey somehow. And I'm hoping someday we meet in a sauna for some cinnamon whiskey.
That'd be all right. I'll be the guy in the towel.
I hope so. I really hope so. All right, Phil, it's an honor, and I hope everybody tunes in for the start of the NHL season. This is going to be a great year.
Hey, look forward to it. It starts in Europe. It'll be pretty special.
I can't wait. All right, thanks, Phil. This episode of the SOMM TV podcast is brought to you by Cuvée Collective, the world's first wine and NFT company, working with the greatest wineries of California. Here's a message from their NFT releasing this week.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Deloise Gant from Concrete Winery. We've partnered with Cuvée Collective to launch our first NFT collection. Come join us in the AVA room for a barrel blending session where you can create your own signature bottle of wine. We're looking forward to welcoming you in Rutherford.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Really appreciate it. Please go to wherever you listen to this podcast. Give us a great review. And go to SOMMTV.com and subscribe if you don't already. Tune into the NHL, and remember, these guys are working hard right now, but they're going to party hard when they're done. And that was a great conversation. Everybody, please be safe, and we will talk very soon.